Alright folks, welcome back to patch 1.6 on the live server, and for this video, we'll take a closer look at the A43 Black Prince prototype. So this is a premium tier 6 British heavy tank. It is practically a down tier Black Prince, without the only single best feature about the Black Prince, and that is the turret front. So this vehicle gets actual Black Prince hull, but a weaker turret. And it's at tier 6 as a premium. So in layman's term, this is practically a wider Churchill Mark 7 with a 17-pounder gun instead of the 77. So that's practically it. So I can tell you right off the bat that the rating for this vehicle is not going to be that high, and you will probably want to skip this video because there are so many better options of getting a premium British heavy tank for your crew training and or credit making capabilities, such as the Carnarvon Action X or even the TOG for the memes. I think the Excelsior at tier 5 might be even better than this thing, and that's saying something. So here is the original stats from the super test server. So as you can see, terrain resistance is below average, and dispersion while shooting on movement is above average, but this vehicle is not that fast, only 20 kilometers per hour top speed. It does have a decent horsepower per ton ratio, but it's not fast. It doesn't have as much armor on the turret front as the Black Prince, and the penetration is below average. I think the average is about 175, 170-ish, so it might be a little bit wrong, but alpha is low, obviously. It's a rapid firing gun, and even though it doesn't do that much DPM, only 1770, the credit cost for the shells are pretty cheap. Only 175 credit per shell, so that's dirt cheap. And the APCR or APDS gold shell is 240 millimeters a pin, so that's not that bad. But then again, it's a 17-pounder, so yeah, they did not buff this vehicle. It's still a pretty much better Churchill Mark 7, but the Churchill Mark 7 is like dog crap. So I wouldn't put money on this vehicle, but this video will probably become a rant about how the power spike between the Black Prince to the Carnarvon is. Like, the Black Prince just okay, it's slightly below okay, just like whatever. And then you jump to the Carnarvon, which is great. This vehicle is just even below okay, even below slightly okay, because you took away the best feature about the Black Prince, and that's the turret front. So let's take a look at the actual vehicle model. It is practically a Black Prince with somewhat of a Chimera turret, with the covering of the Chimera turret, but it's not as strong as the Chimera turret. It's only 150, and it's practically a wider Churchill Mark 7 tall-ish, and there are weird vent ports at the back of the hull for the engine deck, and therefore this two boxes of vents prevents you from getting better gun depression at the rear. So the gun depression at the rear is actually about 1 degrees for these two slits right here. Wonderful. So it's a down tier Black Prince. Has a crew of 5, so it does fit with all the crews other than the TOG. The TOG needs 2 loaders, but that's a fun fact. It has a 17-pounder gun and does perform better than the 77 that's on the Churchill Mark 7. So let's take a quick look at how bad the Churchill Mark 7 is. So here is the Churchill Mark 7. It's a piece of shit. I sold this thing right off the bat. It's not even that great. So the best gun you could carry is a 77. It doesn't even get a 17-pounder, so penetration is already below average. And even though it has a decent DPM, it has no gun depression. Only 4 degrees of gun depression and 12 elevation. That is terrible. Oh my god. This gun, even though it has okay-ish DPM, the penetration sucks. You could only spam gold shell, or you could just flank around, but it's not fast. Also, with the Churchill Mark 7, Even though it has 150 millimeters of frontal armor plates for the turret and for the hull, there's a gigantic upper plate that is only 57 millimeters. It's sloped, but it's only 82 millimeters effective, so you'll get pinned. And also about the Churchill tanks, they have armor underneath the tracks, so it's like the sponson jutting out, and the tracks are covering up that sponson. However, that sponson is only 63 millimeters with only 20 millimeters of track, so effectively that's only 100 millimeters. Lots of vehicle at tier 6 will pin by shooting at the tracks, detracking the Churchill tank, and penetrating and dealing damage. Wonderful. Even side scraping, you can see that they will shoot through the tracks, hit the hull underneath, and the hull underneath is only 100 millimeter effective. Yeah, that's the weak spot about the Churchill tanks. And for the Mark 7, it has only 4 degrees of gun depression, so you can't even go hull down as effectively as you want. And the turret front is only 150, so most of the guns for heavy tanks and tank destroyers will pin. So you cannot go brawling with other heavy tanks because they will pin you. So yeah, that's how bad the Churchill Mark 7 is. But let's take a look at the A43 Black Prince prototype. So here is the tanks.gg stats. As you can see, the shells are dirt cheap. It carries 89 rounds. Terrain resistance, pretty awful other than soft, but it has decent dispersion shooting on movement, even though it's not as fast. But let's jump back to the actual stats in the game. So 171 millimeters of pin. That's better than the 77 that's on the Churchill Mark 7, so I'll give it that. It's a 17 pounder, has a little bit more alpha. DPM is not as high, but 1770 is okay for tier 6. It's slightly above average, but it's okay. 0.35 accuracy, that's average. 2.4 seconds of aim time, that's kinda long, so not that great for a smaller caliber, quote unquote, of a gun, of a heavy tank gun. Turret traverse, about 30 degrees per second, so that's above average for heavy, but it's a pseudo medium-ish of a traverse. 8 degrees of gun depression, that's a godsend compared to the 4, and 20 for elevation, that's a godsend compared to the 12. So yeah, this turret is the only benefit of having better gun depression and elevation than the Churchill Mark 7's turret. Doesn't get the same armor though, so it's the same armor. 152. Well, let's take a look. So you do still have the upper plate weak spot. That's a 57 millimeter sloped. You'll be pinned. What about the sponsons for the tracks? You still have the sponsons for the tracks. So shoot at the tracks, you'll pin, and you'll deal damage while detracking the vehicle. So I think they fixed that a little bit on the actual Black Prince, but we'll jump to the actual Black Prince later on. As for the turret front, you do have a smaller strip of additional armor next to the gun, so covering the mantlet, but other than that, it's still 152. You have slope backwards for the sides, so the mantlet covering is pretty thick, but shoot at the adjacent machine gun port and you'll pin with a large caliber gun. You also have the commander cupola weak spot, but it's a small weak spot. So yeah, if you see one of the Black Princes or Churchill tanks, just shoot at the tracks, shoot at the sponsons, you'll pin, you'll detrack, and you'll deal damage. So like you see right here, oh my god. Oh no, so that's the sponson weak area right there. You don't have to shoot this strip. Huh, that strip is about 361, holy crap. But yeah, that's the main weak spot, so overexpose your side scraping, you'll get pinned. It has 900 health, which is below average, but it's okay. Thank you, phone. 95 millimeters of side armor, so side scraping is not that bad, but be wary, of course, of the drive wheels, and you'll be perma detract and other stuff. And side armor and rear armor is actually okay for heavy. Rear armor is 50 for the hull rear and 100 for the turret rear, but You might bounce a light tank shell if you're lucky. So mobility wise, it's only 12 horsepower per ton ratio, so that's still okay for a heavy, but the top speed is only 20. The reverse speed is 12. Yeah, this thing is not fast. It has 21 degrees of hull traverse, and that is below average. It does weigh 50 tons, so unless somebody rams you, you don't expect to ram somebody else. Alright, concealment 7% default, which is above average for a heavy, so that's okay, but it's still a heavy tank, so don't think you can actually hide. And 360 meters of view range, which is above average. Radio range is below average, so about 600 meters. Here is the actual comparison. So let's take a look at the Black Prince itself. I recently rebought it because I lack the barracks slots, so I rebought this thing. But the only redeeming feature about the Black Prince is the turret, and that's the standard turret. It gets the same engine, pretty much the same radio, a little bit better radio, pretty much the same engine, pretty much 70 instead of the 77 it gets a 17 pounder, so you definitely want the 17 pounder. But taking a look at the actual armor of this vehicle, and you can see that the upper plate is the same. The actual upper plate is this part right here, but upper plate is the same, 57mm slope backwards. The middle plate, or technically the hull plate, is the same. The lower plate is the same. It has slightly smaller sponsons, so the sponsons are kind of better armored right now compared to the Black Prince prototypes and the Churchills. But the only redeeming feature about the Black Prince is the turret front. The turret front is very thick. It has the mantlets. It's about 250 to about 500 millimeters effective, so it's like the T-29 in terms of strong turret front. Has a small commander cupola weak spot, but it's okay. So that's the only redeeming feature about the Black Prince, the turret. You take that away and you place this vehicle as a tier 6. Oh my god. It does get better sponson protection for the tracks, but so here is the comparison. It's practically a Black Prince down tiered. It has less DPM for sure for balancing, but not that much. It has a way less thick turret front, that's obvious, and slightly less accuracy and longer aim time, yada yada, but it's practically a Black Prince. Same engine, same top speed, slightly less view range because of balance reasons, and less radio. It's a crappier radio, but it's practically a down tier Black Prince. I mean, it's a lot better in terms of gun handling than the Churchill Mark 7 because of 4 freaking degrees of gun depression and 12 elevation and the penetration. God damn. So there you go, folks. That's my rating for this vehicle. The A43 Black Prince prototype, I'll give this thing a 4 out of 10. It's okay. I mean, it performs okay if you haul down, but in a brawl against other heavy tanks, yeah, you're not gonna do that well. But then again, it's only tier 6, so most of the tier 6 heavies don't usually have that much armor. So what I'm talking about is vehicles like the M6. It has no armor whatsoever. So let's take a look at the M6. Here is the upgraded turret. Ignore the baby gun, but this thing has no armor whatsoever. Its frontal armor is 88. Lower plate is 100. Mantlet front 100. God, this thing is gigantic bread box. A loaf of bread of a vehicle with no armor. Side armor is 52. Holy shit. I never played this thing. Always go with the Sherman Jumbo line. Jeez. But even though this thing has armor, 152 for a tier 6 heavy, that's not bad, quote unquote. But it's inconsistent, as will I show you with the OI, because the OI is the same armor. It's 150 at the front, but it doesn't have the weak spots like the upper plate, like with the sponsons for the tracks. So take a look at the OI's armor. It is pretty much flat on. It's 150 all the way at the front, so there's no weak spots other than shooting at the creases for the machine guns or the turret. Yeah, you shoot right here, it might be able to penetrate into the gun, but yeah, it's flat on 150. So shoot the upper plate, automatic bounce. You have to shoot the mini turrets at the front. So scrape a little bit and you increase that armor to about 170, even though you expose your drive wheel and side armor. So I mean, the OI is not about the frontal armor, even though it is mostly about the frontal armor. It's mostly about the derp gun and the bully tactics against medium tanks without the penetration. So can you bully medium tanks like the OI? I doubt it, because you don't have a high explosive round. So when they see you, you might be able to pepper them with like 2 rounds of the 17 pounder, whereas OI will look at you and just derp you for 700 alpha with the high explosive rounds. I mean, the OI can also fight off higher tiers like tier 8s and tier 7s because they have the high explosive rounds. They don't have to expose themselves for that long to be pinned by higher tier guns. They can still fight back. Whereas for the A43 Black Prince, you can only pepper them for 2 rounds of the 17 pounder and you get blown up by their large caliber guns penetrating your armor. So 150 armor is okay for a tier 6, even though it's not that consistent. So this vehicle is slow, this vehicle is not that punchy in terms of performance with a gun, but it's still a lot more comfortable than the Churchill Mark 7. So 4 out of 10. I might be even too generous with a 4. I'm thinking about 3.5 out of 10. So let's just meet in the middle. 3.75 out of 10. For the Churchill Mark 7, I give this thing a 2.5 out of 10. Oh, not the Black Prince. The Black Prince will get like a 5 out of 10. Or, yeah, 5-ish. 5.5 out of 10. But the Churchill Mark 7, this thing gets a walloping 2.5 out of 10 with the 77. Oh my god, 4 degrees of gun depression. Holy shit, this thing sucks. But there you go, folks. The A43 Black Prince prototype. Get a Carnarvon Action X. I mean, the spike in power levels at tier 7 to tier 8 is dramatic. It's just insanely powerful. You get a 32 pounder for the Carnarvon, you get a 20 pounder for the Action X version of the Carnarvon, and both of them have about 3000 DPM with a rammer. Because fuck me. But, oh my god. So here you can see with the Carnarvon, it's 3000 DPM with the 32 pounder. With the Action X Carnarvon, with a good crew, it's about 2800 DPM. So not as much DPM as the 32 pounder, but I think it gets better penetration. Yep, a little bit more penetration for the 20 pounder type B barrel. Yep, but the 32 pounder has more alpha, obviously. So the spike in terms of power level from Black Prince to the Carnarvon is dramatic. It's a very strong turret front. It's also faster, and that's very important. But the hull armor is also not as garbage. So, Jesus. Yeah, just get a Action X Carnarvon to train your crews. Why not? This thing is just... How much did I give it? 3.75 out of 10? Okay. There you go, folks. But thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.